Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 10.1 is rapidly approaching, so we'll be moving into Season 2 of Dragonflight very shortly. The patch goes live on May 2nd, so that's our deadline for getting any end-of-season bucket lists completed. There are a lot of different rewards and achievements being removed with the end of Season 1, and there are also a lot of things you can do to best prepare yourself and your characters for the new season. So let's go over everything to do before patch 10.1 goes live, as well as some things which might not be worth your time. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Something everyone is going to want to get done before 10.1 rolls around is the initial set of story quests that became available in 10.0.7. These are the quests that pointed you towards the Forbidden Reach and ask you to join Emberthal in search of answers. You may have thought that this questline was just some story for 10.0.7, but it's actually the first chapter of the 10.1 story campaign. So if you don't complete these questlines in the Forbidden Reach, you won't be able to pick up the new story quests in 10.1 that lead down into Zaralek Cavern and have you join up with our new allies down there. So be sure to follow through with all the main story quests in 10.07 and help Emberthal chase down Sarkareth. It is important to note that you only have to do this once. As soon as you've completed the first chapter on one character, any of your ults can skip over the entire thing. There's one skip that lets you teleport straight to the Forbidden Reach zone, and then there's another skip that lets you skip the actual story content in the Forbidden Reach. You do forfeit any rewards you may have gotten, but if you want to quickly catch up your ults to continue the story content when 10.1 rolls around, it's probably worth it. Now, as per usual, when a new season is coming our way, there are lots of rewards in the current season that will become unobtainable, so you have until patch 10.1 rolls around to get most of this stuff done. The first set of achievements going away in Season 2 are the Ahead of the Curve and Cutting Edge achievements for the Vault of the Incarnates raid. You'll need to kill Razageth on Heroic to get AOTC, or kill them on Mythic to get the Cutting Edge achievement. Now you may be wondering about the Razageth mount transformation that drops in the raid. We don't have any information about whether that drop rate is going to decrease going into 10.1, so I think it's a safe assumption to say that it will not. Usually these kinds of drops only become harder to get after the entire expansion is over. With the big item level jumps coming in Season 2, Razageth should be much easier to kill on every difficulty, so if you really want that mount option, it should only get easier to obtain as the expansion progresses. The only problem left would be finding a group. Then we also have some Mythic Plus achievements tied to Season 1. Getting up to 1500 Mythic Plus rating will reward you with the Keystone Conqueror achievement and the Thundering title, and then getting up to 2000 Mythic Plus rating will get you the Keystone Master achievement and the Hailstorm Armadon mount, so if you want either of those rewards you will need to hit the rating requirements before the end of Season 1. If you want to push further, you can get the Keystone Hero achievement at 2500 rating that rewards you with the Gleaming Incarnate Thunderstone that unlocks new effects on the Season 1 tier gear. Now before we continue, today's video is sponsored by Enlisted. Enlisted is a World War II multiplayer shooter with a particular emphasis on historical accuracy and authenticity combined with dynamic gameplay that always keeps you in the action. The scale of combat is huge with dozens of soldiers, light vehicles, armored vehicles and aviation, as well as hundreds of different weapons to choose from, so you need to maximize your resources to take control of the battlefield. One of the most interesting parts of the game are the various campaigns, which are modeled after historical battles of the era, with unique maps, troop types, weapons and vehicles to really draw you into the time period. Enlisted is available to play on PC, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5 as well as PS4 and Xbox One with cross-platform support, and it's completely free, no purchase necessary. If you use our link in the description, you'll also get a free welcome bonus including 3 days of premium time and several orders for troops and weapons, so click on the link to play Enlisted for free today. If you want to push yourself further, there are also the dungeon teleport rewards for each Season 1 Mythic Plus dungeon. If you complete a Keystone on +20 or above, you'll get the Keystone Hero achievement for that specific dungeon, which includes a teleport spell directly to the dungeon. With Season 2 bringing us a completely new round of dungeons to run, you won't be able to get these teleport spells or achievements in patch 10.1, so if you want them, you'll have to get those +20 keys finished up quickly. If you really want to prepare for Season 2, you could take a look at the new dungeon rotation and refresh yourself on how those dungeons work. They'll all have the same abilities, trash packs and bosses, it's just going to get harder and harder, and obviously we'll have the affixes in play. So if you haven't run some of these dungeons in a little bit, it might be worth going through them once or twice to see where the pain points might be and what routes might give you the best chance of success. There are also various PvP rewards going away with the start of Season 2. Obviously, the Season 1 Gladiator title and mount will no longer be available, so you have a limited time if you're shooting for that one, but there's also the Vicious Sabertooth mount for winning rated PvP matches, or the Elite PvP transmog sets which you can get from getting up to 1800 rating in either 2s or 3s rated arena. All of these rewards are seasonal, so you don't have too much longer to secure them. That's most of the endgame rewards that are going away with Season 2, but there are some other things I would recommend you look into before 10.1 goes live. To start with, alts. Right now is a perfect time to level up some alts if you're wanting to try something new in 10.1. Don't wait for the patch to arrive to start working on your alts, because you'll be far too busy with all of the shiny new content. If you've been looking for a change of pace, or just want to have a few alts going forward, I would get them all shipshape before the new patch goes live. If you're looking for some suggestions, Shadow Priests seem to be doing pretty well with the new rework, Devastation Evokers are getting some interesting changes which could be a lot of fun to play but also be very powerful, and then there are a few classes with long lists of updates which could go either way. I would take a peek at the patch notes, see which classes are getting the most attention, and think about whether you want to level up that class. I would also encourage you to have at least one max level alt to take advantage of any large swings in profession changes, or to help supply your main character with profession materials. Alts have been very useful in other ways, like mass trading Scaravolt keys in 10.07 to make upgrading your main's Primordial Stones incredibly quick, so there are plenty of reasons to have a few alts up at max level, even if you don't play around with them too much. So right now is a great time to level up a few alts to pad out your roster. Something a lot of players probably haven't fully considered is that you can also now play the opposite faction with almost zero in-game consequences. 10.1 will introduce cross-faction guilds, so you can invite those alts into your mains guild even if you decide to play on the opposite faction. So whether you want to experience both sides of any faction stories, play a different set of races, or just hang out in Stormwind instead of Orgrimmar once in a while, cross-faction guilds will remove one of the last boundaries that make cross-faction gameplay more annoying. Now, a big topic that always crops up in these videos is gearing up your characters. Should I gear up my alts? Should I try and get some better gear on my main? And it usually depends on which patch we're going into. With 10.1, Season 2 of Dragonflight will completely rearrange the entire gearing up process. Item levels across the board will be increased, so you'll be able to get way better gear from world events, dungeons, Mythic Plus, Raid, PvP, everything. So almost no matter what kind of player you are, you will be replacing all of your gear pretty quickly. If you do raids or Mythic Plus dungeons, you will replace it even faster. The patch also includes a whole new upgrade system for gear, but it's only going to work for Season 2 rewards. So while you will be able to upgrade world gear, raid gear and Mythic Plus gear way easier and further than before, that's only going to work for gear that drops in Season 2. That does devalue most types of gears that you can get right now in game. Now, profession gear can be upgraded in the new system, so anything you have that was crafted can be brought forward, so that's the only stuff you won't have to replace, but upgrading it is going to be a pretty lengthy process, so you might end up replacing it initially and then upgrading it later on down the line. With all that being said, better gear will still give you a smoother start in Season 2. Better gear lets you move faster through keystone levels, or lets you kill bosses faster, or just survive easier in the open world. So I would get some gear, probably up to the 380, 390 mark on any character you want to play, but going past that probably won't be worth it. Thankfully, gearing up in 10.07 is incredibly quick. You have a few options, mainly focused around the Forbidden Reach. Rares, events and monsters in the zone can drop gear tokens that immediately create item level 385 gear. The rares can now also drop storm sigils, so you can use the massive amounts of elemental overflow to buy the 359 gear from the Primal Storm vendor, and then upgrade it to 385 with the storm sigils you get. The gear you end up with is the same, but now you have multiple avenues of actually getting it. Being able to buy whatever you want from the vendor and upgrade it also gives you way more control over which pieces you get, which is always nice. All of the rares and mobs can also drop the untapped Forbidden Knowledge item, which lets you upgrade this gear to 395, so depending on your luck and drop rates, you can pretty quickly get up to 385 and maybe even 395 item levels on any characters you want to play. That's mostly what I would do. I wouldn't bother trying to gear up much more than that right now. Another great option that we have for either gearing up or leveling up is the special Timewalking event that lasts until 10.1 goes live. Timewalking dungeons are quick and easy leveling, and there's a weekly quest to run 5 Timewalking dungeons that rewards you with a random piece of heroic raid loot, and that's going to be for every week that this event is active. That's probably the easiest and best source of gear in the game right now in terms of effort versus reward, so if you want to get some extra gear, whether it's on your alts or your main, make sure you're doing those weekly Timewalking quests for the free heroic raid loot, because you never know how lucky you might get. One major aspect of gearing up in patch 10.0.7 is the new Primordial Stone system, but these stones in the Onyx Amulet are not supposed to last through Season 2. According to the dev team, this isn't a system they're bringing forward. We won't upgrade these items at all in Season 2, and we're going to replace them fairly quickly, especially if you run high-end content like heroic or mythic raiding or high-level mythic plus keystones. So if it's all being replaced, should you even bother with the Onyx Amulet or upgrading the Primordial Stones? I would actually say yes, for the most part. The ring is still very powerful, especially after the few rounds of buffs various stone effects were given to make sure people were actually engaging with the system. So for right now, it is one of the better rings you can get, so it could help you eke out some of those last minute end of season requirements like ahead of the curve or pushing Mythic Plus dungeons. It's also going to be a great power boost for early Season 2 content like killing the raid bosses for the first time or pushing higher Mythic Plus keystones, but for casual players and outdoor world content players, I think it's even more important. The ring isn't just extra damage, it can also provide you with absorbed shields or extra self-sustain and healing, which is perfect for soloing content. The potential upgrades available to you are also going to be quite a bit lower if you aren't raiding or doing high-end PvP or Mythic Plus, so you won't replace it quite as early. There are new gearing up opportunities for everyone in 10.1, so you will probably replace it eventually, but I think it will hold its value longer for solo players. So I do think the ring is worth fully upgrading for everyone before 10.1 goes live. Another important factor to consider are your professions. 10.1 will bring us a lot of changes for professions, including new raw materials, new recipes and crafts, and a complete change to how upgrading crafted gear is going to work. So if you're looking to pick up a new profession or change things around, now is a perfect time to make those choices. One of the big updates is tied to enchanting. Instead of collecting primal infusions, upgrading profession gear is also tied into the new Shadowflame Crest system. But to use Shadowflame Crests on profession gear, you're going to need an enchanter to create enchanted Shadowflame Crests. It does seem a bit unnecessary, but basically Shadowflame Crests are required for any and all gear upgrades in 10.1, with enchanters being the only ones who can facilitate the use of crests for profession gear. That means they're going to be in high demand in patch 10.1. Whether you're wanting to craft new gear or upgrade your profession gear from Season 1, you're going to want to either be an enchanter yourself or at least know an enchanter in the new patch. Another big update comes through for alchemy. They have new cauldrons, including a vile cauldron, but that's not what I'm interested in. There's a new transmute for alchemists to learn to create Dracothist. This new material is used in almost every new recipe in 10.1, including the cauldrons we just mentioned, various pieces of new crafted gear, and the enchanted Shadowflame Crests from enchanters. It's also a transmute, which means it's got a baked-in limit on how many can be created, which should keep prices relatively high. So if you wanted to make some quick gold at the start of 10.1, quickly leveling up an alchemist and speccing into the transmutation points could be worth the effort. If either of these profession updates look good enough to pick up, you can swap around your professions and get started on the profession knowledge grind before 10.1 goes live. Now there is a pretty big problem with this approach. There are still no real catch-ups in place for profession knowledge, so if you've heavily invested into certain professions already, it might be better to just keep those rolling. It is ultimately up to you, but the great news is that with the new enchanted Shadowflame Crests, any and all crafted gear from Season 1 can be brought forward and upgraded to new higher item levels. That means all of your specialization points are still valid, and arguably more important, as higher item level upgrades are going to need higher skill levels to guarantee those rank 5 crafts, so every profession is still relevant and important. Personally, I would get an alt leveled up and start skilling up new professions on that character instead of dropping a highly invested profession. You never know what future changes we're going to see, so I would use this time to decide on which professions you want to focus on as we head into 10.1 and whether you want to risk starting up something new. I would also recommend clearing the map of dragon riding glyphs if you haven't already. 1007 and the Forbidden Reach added quite a few extra glyphs to hunt down, with 2 new talents to unlock, but as we head into 10.1 we will have even more glyphs to collect in Zaralek Cavern with 2 additional talents, but with the recent changes to dragon riding talents, you can now untalent and swap things around very quickly and easily. So if you get all of the glyphs in 1007, you can drop Aerial Halt or Airborne Recovery to immediately pick up the new talent Ground Skimming and see if you like that one better. You will also need all of the 1007 glyphs to unlock every talent after collecting the 10.1 glyphs, so it's always worth keeping up with. You can use add-ons like Handy Notes to display the locations on your map to make things super quick and easy. Now there is an activity that I know many folks would expect to be important to finally finish up, but it actually might not be. We've had quite a while to max out our renown with the first 4 major Dragonflight factions and claim all of those rewards, but none of these renown levels will be required for anything in patch 10.1, at least that I've found so far, so you don't have to do the story segments or earn any achievements or any of that to continue with the content in 10.1, so farming reputation and getting to max renown is definitely not required. In an interesting twist, there are actually more ways to earn reputation in 10.1 for these factions. The main story questlines reward a lot of rep for the Valdrakken Accord, including big tokens that instantly give you 2,500 rep, and then one of the new main events in the patch are the Fyrak Assaults. These are going to pop up in a few different areas of the Dragon Isles, and the locals will give you quests to fend off the assaults. Those quests reward you with reputation for the general area for where the assault is, so you have more opportunities to earn rep for the Marek Centaur and the Iskara Tuskar. The emissary system from 1007 also seems to be sticking around in 10.1, it's still active on the 10.1 PTR at any rate, so you should still be able to take advantage of those 10% rep gain buffs as we head into the new patch as well. So like it has been for pretty much the entire expansion so far, renown and reputation farming is up to you. It definitely isn't required for anything in 10.1, and it might actually be easier or faster to earn rep in the new patch. But that's everything I would recommend you get done before patch 10.1 goes live, and some things that might not matter too much. What are you going to be focusing on in the next few weeks? Do you feel like you have enough time to achieve your goals, or are you going to be rushing around before the patch hits live servers? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks again to Enlisted for sponsoring today's video. Use our link in the description to play for free today and get that special bonus pack with free premium time and orders for troops and weapons to get you right into the action. And a big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find the links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.